Hello friends and gamers, this is Stone Warden with episode 2 of Let's Play Final Fantasy XI. Haven't done anything in between episodes, basically just logged in where we logged out. Have a short list of things we want to get done today, so I want to jump right into it. Since we ended the last episode by completing mission 1-2 for Sandoria, I want to go ahead and jump in and start mission 1-3, and this will get us to rank 2 in our starting nation. Okay, we've accepted the mission, and basically Save the Children is about rescuing some children that have been kidnapped by orcs. So we're going to head over to the cathedral and speak to a guy about the issue of missing children. This is the NPC we're supposed to talk to. And again, just keep in mind, a lot of these NPCs do overlap with quests and missions. So, as you read, you want to make sure that the text that you see there matches the quest that you're supposed to be on. Yes, this is about kidnapped children, so I feel pretty confident. But even when this cutscene is over, what I'm going to do is double check by talking to this NPC a couple more times just to see what other hits we get on that, to make sure that we really did get what we need from him before we move on. Because there's nothing worse than running out to the middle of nowhere and figuring out, oh, we have to go back to talk to another NPC. Okay, believe that's good. Now we're going to head out to Gelsba Outpost. Not too far outside of town. Violet is an NPC that should sell magical maps. So since we're headed out that way, we're going to buy the map of Gelsba. Of course, according to the text, that's going to cover Gelsba Outpost, the Fortress of Gelsba, and you got Grotto. So there are a couple of zones out that way, and that will cover all three. Some of these are fairly pricey, so as we make more money, we'll come back and fill in the map situation, and we'll talk about how to make some gil, some easy, simple gil as we go. Not that it matters much anymore because of the addition of survival guides and home points pretty much anywhere you want to go, but early on, in the early years of the game, the outpost warp was the best way to get to remote regions. And the way you do outpost warp is your nation has to control that area, and then you, during the week that you have control of that area, you have to go and do this supplies quest. So it looks like right now there are 3 regions that we could do supplies quest to. I'm going to go ahead and do one here. This is the outpost that's just right outside of town, so we'll do that one quickly and then head up to Gelsba Outpost. Okay, so as you can see, the outpost is marked on the map, and there's a flashing book next to the outpost, so we'll grab both of those. Although I'm at level 14, still in level 7, level 8 gear. And the reason for that is just we're leveling so fast, I can't stop to take time to upgrade to the latest gear every couple of levels. So there is another set at 17 or 18, but we may even ride this one to the level 21 set, which would be the bone harness set. So we'll see how it goes. Here's our survival guide. Field manual, and one of these should let us complete our supplies quest. So, this guy. No, there we go. And by doing the supplies quest to the outpost, we also got some extra conquest points, which again we're looking for Really, the goal is to get 5,000 conquest points to get the warp ring. And the warp ring you can use every 10 minutes, once every 10 minutes, to go back to whatever your registered home point is. And that comes in handy, comes in very handy late game when you're moving around and you get into certain battlefields and other places that the only way really to come out is to warp out of. So as you get up here closer to the northwest corner of the map, you'll notice a lot of these fort-like logs sticking up out of the ground and orcs hanging around, so you know you're headed in the right direction when you see these things. And if you keep going this way, you'll end right up in Gelsba Outpost. And this is Gelsba Outpost. Now that we're in, we'll summon these trusts. And now that we're in, we're supposed to make our way to the hut door at G9. Should be this way. And when we do check on these, they are conning too weak to be worthwhile, which means they will not yield experience points for us, and they also are going to ignore us because our level is much higher than theirs. Here's our hut door. This should be a cutscene. Please do not summon your trusts before entering the battlefield. They do not come with you, and since there's a longer recast time on these trusts, I've had to stand here for a couple of minutes and wait for that cooldown to expire. So we still should be perfectly fine on the time limit. Just a little annoying to wait 2 minutes on trusts. So lesson learned. Alright, let's get after it. Here we go. And that was quick. And we receive the key item, Orcish Hut Key, which is what we need. An important step in this one is to click the hut door again. So see, if we missed that, we'd have to come all the way out here to click this again. Big shout out to BG Wiki for having all these instructions just right there for us to follow. Just for good measure, we'll check it again. Alright. And now we head back to the gate guard, where we will get promoted to rank 2. So, Stone Warden, what are we doing after we get rank 2? Good question. I have planned a trip to Selbina, so we're going to do a little bit of walking, which, thanks to some video editing, I will make much shorter for you than it will be for me. But we'll head over to Selbina and do a couple of things. We're going to grab a couple of cutscenes and progress through Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. And the reason we're going to do that is because we can get what's called a sub-job or support job, depending on who you talk to. What is a sub-job or support job? Well, if you go to your status menu, what you'll notice in the upper left-hand corner is you'll see starting at the top, our name SWG for Stone Warden Gaming. Below that, it says Level 14 Warrior. Then below that is a space. And in that space is where we will find our support job or sub job information once it is unlocked. Essentially, the way Final Fantasy works is it allows you to choose a main job. So we would be level 14 warrior, and then our support job is capped at half of what our main job's level is. So for example, if our support job now was thief, we could have a 14 warrior, 7 thief. What that means is that we'll get a little bit of a bonus to our attributes, and we will also have access to the abilities that a level 7 thief would have. That's one of the things that makes this game so unique and so incredible, is the ability to mix and match and have that support job system. So Rhapsodies of Vana'diel was added a few years ago, and what it does is it allows us to get that support job earlier than we normally would. If you played the game years and years and years ago, you may remember that getting your support job was a big deal. You had to grind to level 18 and then get help from a higher level person to complete that quest. You had to go farm a few rare items from mobs that were hard to kill, almost impossible to kill by yourself at that level. So Rhapsodies of Vana'diel made it super easy to get your support job, so we're going to do that first. Now, since I've read ahead, I know that one of the things we'll need is we'll need to farm 3 bee pollen. So what I'm going to do is come to the auction house. You'll see there the target says auction counter. I'm going to come to the auction house and see if I can buy 3 bee pollen for a reasonable price, and if so, that'll save me the time to have to go and farm it myself. So, in finding bee pollen on the auction house, we'll go to others, we'll go to miscellaneous, and we'll go down to bee pollen. So we're going to need 3. Let's see how much they've been selling for. Way too much for us to buy. Interesting that they cost that much. Okay, so guess we'll be farming the bee pollen ourselves. Okay, so let's see if we can complete our mission. Perfect, rank 2 and 1,000 gil, that's nice. So now if we go back to our status and go back to our profile page, we'll see we are rank 2 and rank points bar is empty. What we can do at this point, I believe, is trade some crystals. And we just filled up our bar. And what that does is that allows us to skip the middle mission if we want to. So there's 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3 again. So we'll have to complete mission 2-1. We'll be able to skip 2-2 because we have enough rank points at that point to go straight to 2-3. So that'll save us a little bit of time in terms of getting to rank 3, which is important. So and before I head out on my trip to Selbina, what I'll do is see if we can get the Tenzin Trust. And again, as we start adding more trusts to our repertoire, what you do is you come in here and sort them. And as you'll notice, there are little icons next to each trust name. There's a shield, there's a sword, and this is a staff or a club. What this denotes is that Val is a tank, Exenmil and Tenzin are DPS, and Melee is a healer. So there's also ranged attack icons as well as mage DPS icons. So, and last thing before I head out, since we're going 2, 3, 4 zones away, want to make sure that we set our home point. I know the home point is already here in town, but we'll do that just to be sure. And then the other thing is Let's see if we have enough conquest points to purchase a scroll of instant warp. And that's only 10 points, so we'll take that. And what that allows us to do is if we get to a place where we just want to come home and we're not close to a book or a home point, then we can use that scroll of instant warp to head back to that home point. We should ultimately end up in Selbina, which has a home point in it, but it will cost us gil, and since we are kind of low on gil for the moment, at least until we start to make some, what we'll do is we'll use the conquest points for the warp, and that'll save us a little bit of money on the back end. So always want to think ahead of not only how do we get where we're going, but how do we get back. Now, so we're headed to the southwest corner of the zone this time. La Tien is how I've always pronounced that in my head. I'm still not sure if that makes sense. It's either La Tien or La Tien Plateau. And we're going to head that way, and then we're going to head on down through that and make our way to Valkyrum Dunes, and then in the middle of that zone is the zone line to Selbina. So this is the Cavernous Maw, and this is tied to the Wings of the Goddess content. I'm not 100% sure what the level requirement is to get the initial cutscene for that. I think it's 30, which is still way too low to be going into Wings of the Goddess content, but there it is. So that's what the Cavernous Maws are, and that's why they won't do anything for us yet, because we are still too low level to get into all that. See, currently we can only have 3 alter egos with us in the party. Progression in Rhapsodies of Vana'diel will increase that to where we can have 5 alter egos or trusts with us in the party. So that's one of the reasons why we're wanting to keep an eye on the Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. Again, there are spoilers in that, you know, for some of the other content that we'll be doing, but we'll do a minimal amount so that there aren't many spoilers, but that we still get to benefit from the bonuses that come with that expansion. And fighting across the zone, making my way down to that southern exit. Valkyrum Dunes is marked there on the map. And since I picked up a page with a training regime of 8 of these Fungars, go ahead and knock those out before we move on. Alright, that makes 8 Fungars, which completes that page. So now what I'm going to do is just head on down to Valkyrum Dunes, and that'll bring us one step closer to Selbina. So this is Valkyrum Dunes, which may look familiar to you if you played in the early years of the game. This was the spot where most folks' first experience points party took place. Around level 14, 15, 16, and on up to maybe 18, 19, people would party up and level here. So lots of memories for those players who were around during that time, being chased out of camps by goblins and being wiped out and all kinds of fun stuff. So if this looks familiar to you, just soak it up, enjoy the nostalgia. And the Zone 2 Selbina is in the middle portion of the map towards the south. But I believe there's a survival guide up here at the outpost, so let me run up here and see if we can grab that first. Having completed 2 pages of Fields of Valor here in Valcrum Dunes, I'm going to head on down to Selbina and continue the quest. And this should be the NPC we need to talk to. In the cutscene, the character asks for clumps of bee pollen. It looks like we need to collect 3. I tried to buy them off the auction house before we left town, but they were so expensive, could not afford them. So what that means is we're going to run over here to where we farm them in Konstadt Highlands, and we're going to kill a bunch of bees until we have at least 3 clumps of bee pollen. So now we're headed down to the southeast portion of the map. And the bee pollen should drop from these huge wasps. I'm not sure what the drop rate is. We'll find out. That one dropped the beehive chip, which I believe is more common. And that one dropped nothing. So when you're out looking for a particular monster, you can come to the map, go to wide scan, and get an idea if there are any around your area. What do we have here but 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 bee pollen? I was busy streaming on Twitch. You would not believe it. I was at it so long last night that I ended up passing out basically. Got no drops, could not figure out what was going on, so woke up this morning and decided to stream over on Twitch the hunt for some bee pollen, and it took me 15 minutes. I think just a few trips around the crag, killing some huge wasps to get the 3 bee pollen that we need. So now that I have that, I'm going to head back and turn those in to the folks over at Selbina, and hopefully continue the quest. And just like in the field, in towns we can use wide scan to find the NPC that we're looking for. So if you know the name, so if you've been reading about your quest or mission on VG Wiki or one of the other wikis that are available online, and you go to wide scan, we're going to be looking for this fella here, and the wide scan will allow you to track. And then once you track, what you'll notice is in the bottom left hand corner of the screen, the little compass map, directional map there, will have a glowy blue arrow that points to the person and also has the name of whatever you're tracking. So that used to be, wide scan used to be limited to a couple of jobs like Ranger and Beastmaster, but now that's open for all jobs. And what we need to do is trade the not beehive chip, the bee pollen. So now that we have this key item, Gilgamesh's introductory letter, we can talk to a different NPC and unlock the sub job or support job capability that we want. And that is this NPC here. In my head I've always pronounced it as Isacio. And where are they? Way down here by the water. Normally, if the old way to do this was you had to collect 3 items for Isacio, the crab apron, the damselfly worm, and a third item. I cannot remember what it was, but it was from the skeletons in the mines. And so 2 of those 3 was pretty easy to get. The last was tougher. But now, doing Rhapsodies of Vana'diel, all we had to do was get those 3 bee pollens, complete this mission that we were going to complete anyway, and we're going to get access to our support job. So you asked there for the damselfly worm, which would have been first, but since we have that key item, and he gives a little explanation of support jobs. There we go. We can now designate a support job. Now there won't be one that shows up until we go and change jobs. Let me also mention there is no way to remove it once you've done this. So if for whatever reason you wanted to play the game without a support job, I cannot for the life of me imagine what that reason would be, but if that's what you wanted to do, then do not do this quest, or do not talk to Isacio and have that support job unlocked, because there's no way to go back. So once I change jobs, I'll have to choose a support job, and it'll show up there. So to check the status of your missions, in your menu, you flip to the second page, go to missions, and depending on which one you're looking for status on, you can go to add-ons, and there's Rhapsodies of Vana'diel. We just completed our ROV 1-4, and that teed us up for ROV 1-5. Since we're already here, and all we have to do is talk to an NPC for 1-5, I'm going to go ahead and do that before we continue with anything else. and this is the fella here. And that teleported us to a place called Norg. Here's our survival guide. And here's our home point. And you'll probably notice that I did not complete ROV 1-5. I left it the way it was. Because again, I want to go through some of the other content before we get to any spoilers or get to any caps there. So I'm going to leave that ROV 1-5 for now. I'm going to go back and research and see what kind of bonuses we get for finishing Chapter 1. And so we may end up doing that soon. But I wanted to come back to Sandoria just to knock out a couple of items. First thing I want to do is obtain this new trust. And now that we have a new trust, the next thing I want to do is change jobs. So the way you change jobs is you have to locate. On the map, it's called a residential area. This will be a Mog House, and soon you will see why we call it a Mog House. Because that's what the Moogle calls it, the Mog House. Upon zoning in, you'll get the initial description of what a Mog House is. Essentially, in the Mog House, you have a Mog safe, you have storage, and you have a delivery box. You have the ability to change jobs, and then they've also added gardening and decorating. So in your home nation and other nations, you can change the layout of the furniture and other things. So basically, we'll get into a little tutorial on that. You can invite people into your Mog House, and it's a pretty neat play. You have two options whenever you're in your Mog House. You can talk directly to the Moogle, and after flagging all the quests that they have to give you, this little menu here will pop up at the bottom. So storage. Here's a list of all the storage items that you have. Mog wardrobes you have to pay for. These are added onto your account, and if you pay for a Mog wardrobe, all of the characters on that account will have access to a Mog wardrobe. Basically, what a Mog wardrobe does, it allows you to have gear inside of it that you can equip without pulling it out of the wardrobes. That was always a big challenge with Final Fantasy, is you change jobs, but you had to move your gear back and forth when you change jobs. Now you just put all the gear in the Mog wardrobes, and you don't have to worry about moving it around. It's just with you always. Now Mog safe, you can put anything you want to in there, so we can put our crystals in, and we can take them back out. However, if we put furniture into the Mog safe, then we can use that furniture and place it in our Mog House. And so we can have a table over there, a bed over there, and furniture in your Mog House will give certain bonuses depending upon which furniture you place and how you place it. There are also trophies that we'll earn throughout the life of our character, flags, things for the wall, clocks, etc., from completing different missions and quests. And so it's sort of nice to be able to come into your Mog House and see the trophies from your adventures up on the wall and on the floor and on the tables, etc. So we'll get more into decorating this as we go. Also of importance, delivery box. So if we want to send something to another player, you can come in here to the send box, type in the name of that recipient, put in the item, and it's just like a trade. However, they have to pull it into their delivery box. So do not send something to someone unless they are ready to receive it, because your send box will fill up and the item will not go until they accept it. So make sure you're not sending stuff to people that don't play the game anymore, because then you'll be in a bad spot. You can receive when you sell things on the auction house. This is where the money will come in from those sales, or if other people send you items, it will come into the receive box. Gardening, Open Mog will allow you to invite other party members and alliance members into your room for fun parties, of course. Gardening we'll get into later, but for right now the main thing we wanted to look at was changing jobs. So you come to change jobs, and again, because we have unlocked support job, now we have an option of unlocking or changing the main job and the support job. So main job, like I said before, we're going to switch to Thief. And then support job, we're going to go ahead and leave that as Warrior. So now, as you'll notice, the hit points went from 300 and some down to 40. We are a fresh level 1 Thief / level 1 Warrior. And as we level, that Warrior will stay half of the levels that the Thief is at, but will have bonuses to strength and dexterity and other things based on the fact that we've chosen a Warrior. We will also have access to those abilities, job abilities like Provoke. So if Provoke is at level 5, then at a level 10 Thief, then we will have Provoke, right? Because that's a level 5, and our Warrior will be, support job will be level 5. Also, we get job traits. So any of the extra traits, like Warrior has a double attack trait at a certain level, etc. Those things are available on your main job. So the support job system is really nice, and it allows you to really put some thought into what do you want to have as your support job, and what makes sense, what works well together, and really allows you to customize your character. So since we're now fresh level 1, what I want to do is go into my satchel here, pull out my level 1 gear, and put that back on so that we can level. I haven't mentioned it yet, but Beastman's Seal. So under a certain level, if you're attacking and fighting a mob that will grant experience points to you, then it has a chance of granting you a Beastman's Seal. Save these. These can be used to enter restricted battlefields that drop rare items, and there are some items that are only available by going into those battlefields, and so they can be pretty pricey. So they're a nice way to make a chunk of change as a new character if you can find folks to go in and help you with those battlefields. So hang on to your Beastman's Seal. There's an NPC in Juno that will hold on to them for you. So for now, I'm just going to stick them in my mod case, and then we'll address those. Same for copper vouchers. They can be exchanged for other types of currencies and other types of goodies. So anytime you get a copper voucher for completing an ROE objective, hang on to it. And again, those there are NPCs that will hang on to those for you so that you can store those up and they won't take up your space. There are quests that will allow us to expand the number of items that we can carry. The maximum is 80. That quest is in Juno, can be a little bit pricey, so for now, one of the things that ends up taking up a lot of space are these crystals, right? And so they're good to have. So what do? This ephemeral Moogle will hold all of our crystals for us, and as far as I know, there is no maximum. Oh, I stand corrected. Mysterious Moogle magic has limits, so I can only hold up to 5,000 of a particular element. So he can hold 5,000 crystals of each element. So we trade him our fire crystals. He does a little magic, and then displays the tally of crystals that he has for you. These ephemeral Moogles are in, as far as I know, every starting nation plus other places. So find your favorite one and start loading up those crystals. That way you don't have to sell them, you don't have to get rid of them, and they don't have to be sitting in your inventory taking up space. And for the last item of business today, as you can see, under our Conquest tab, we have 5,130 Conquest points. So what we're going to do is speak to this fellow, spend those points, and going to buy a warp ring. One of the most commonly used items in the game. The way it works is you equip the warp ring. There's a cooldown, 10 seconds. You have to have it on before the ability is available. But then that warp ring will show up in your items as a usable item. And if we use that item, it will warp us to wherever our home point is set. And then there's another 10-minute cooldown on top of that. So great to have, great item to have, only 5,000 conquest points. What we'll do next is build up conquest points as we level, and probably purchase one of the experience points bands. But that's going to do it for today, folks. Thanks for being here. Really enjoyed hanging out with you. Looking forward to more Final Fantasy XI. Bye.